Hello, Becky here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to do a 1-week readathon / no tech-ish challenge. So I am a part of Kayla from Books and Lala's YouTube channel membership that she calls her besties. And she is doing a readathon this week, June 16th till June 23rd. Yeah, so I think it's technically 8 days. And it's called Lalathon, and it's just her favorite things. So she made a bingo board and had a list of things that she loves in books. So we have 16 different prompts of things we can choose from. And obviously most people aren't, well, I'm not going to get to 16 books in a week, but there's a couple of ways you can go about fulfilling these prompts. So she has a list of all the books that she's given 5 stars that fit into these different categories, and we could pick a book from there and read her favorite books. Or I can pick a fake dating book that I just have on my list that I'm interested in reading, whether or not she's read it, or maybe it was one of the ones she didn't like, but I'm still curious and want to read it. Or we could kind of do our own 5-star audit and make up our own list of things that we love in books. I am going to do the middle one, where I'm taking her favorite things that she's written down as prompts, and I'm going to find books that I'm interested in reading, whether or not they're on her list, as long as they fulfill the prompt. So I'm planning to vlog this week, and the challenge part of it for me is not reading the books. It is technology and taking a break from it as much as I can. I've been spending way too much time on YouTube, and I spend like all day, every day, sitting at the computer desk working on things, and none of it is paying me. It's not a job I have. I don't need to be there doing it, but it is some things like editing YouTube videos or making thumbnails, or I have a free trial on Canva, and I've been just going wild and making all kinds of things like a month calendar for July and August and all the things I want to do with the kids. So I've just been like making stuff. Some of it needs to get done. We need to do it, but I'm just wasting so much time as well and having a hard time focusing and neglecting the reading I need to do. So I'm not going to completely eradicate technology for the next 8 days. I'm going to limit it. I am going to try and only edit when I have time, when I am not having a baby in my lap. I'm going to try basically to avoid mostly watching YouTube videos. And the only YouTube stuff I want to do is things like, for this readathon, Kayla is going to be doing reading sprints like the first day and the last day, and probably one day in the middle there. So during that time, if I can, I could use the sprints for editing, or during the talking parts of the sprints, I can be working on something like editing thumbnails or working on my cross stitch project, and then reading during the reading sprints or editing. And then I'm also a part of Gavin's Patreon, so he will have reading sprints and stuff as well. And on Thursdays, he does his Charmed watch-along thing, witch-along or whatever he calls it. I don't watch Charmed. I've never watched Charmed, so I'm like, I'm not going to get into watching Charmed. And then I'm like, hey, I can use those as reading sprints. So I will be joining a few, like, being a part of live things on YouTube, but using it as reading sprints and stuff. Yes, that is the goal. What am I reading? What am I doing this week? What are we vlogging? What are you here for? I need to finish this yesterday. I didn't. I have 120 pages left of this still life, and you can see me talking about this on July 1st in my Canada Books vlog. This has nothing to do with Lalathon or anything. I don't think Kayla would like this. Sometimes she likes slower books, sometimes she likes faster paced books. It is a slower book, but she doesn't like detective stories, like detective point of view. He's not the only point of view in it. Armand Gamache, I think. It's French. It's from Quebec. You get a few different perspectives, but I just don't think it's something that she would care about as much. What am I reading? So I have 2 hours of driving I have to do tomorrow. So the hour there, I should be able to listen to a book, and I'm going to start The 7-Year Slip, which is a romance book. And if you watched my Summer of Romance TBR video on June 20th, I am planning on reading lots of romance books. I also had 7 Days in June on my list. I guess 7 Days in June is books about books. But The 7-Year Slip I will start tomorrow on my drive out to go pick up my daughter. And that is a book that plays with time. And from what I remember, it is this girl, her grandmother dies, and she inherits her grandmother's apartment to live in, and she ends up interacting with this guy that is also living there, but he's living there 7 years in the past, and something like that. I'm not totally sure what it is. Some kind of weird time travel thing. It plays with time. So I've heard good things about it, and I'm excited to listen to that. I also have this month's buzzword that I want to read for June, and I thought this was perfect because the buzzword is Kayla's year-long reading challenge, and the June buzzword is repeating words. So I have picked up tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and I haven't looked for an audiobook of this. This is pretty chunky, and I was asking people if they knew if this would fit any of the prompts. And I think someone said it could loosely be tied to obsession, maybe? I don't even remember if Kayla liked this book or not. I'm just going to read the little bottom part of this. You can't see because of the light, I'm sorry. But I'm just going to read the little bottom part of the synopsis, not the full thing. Spanning 30 years, from Cambridge, Massachusetts to Venice Beach, California, and lands in between and far beyond, Gabrielle Zevin's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a dazzling and intricately imagined novel that examines the multifarious nature of identity, disability, failure, and redemptive possibilities in play, and above all, our need to connect, to be loved, and to love. Yes, it is a love story, but it's not one you have read before. Hoping to get to this week. Stay tuned to the rest of the vlog to see what I actually get to. And then I have a few other books here. I typically read like a book a week-ish. It kind of works out too. I cannot read all these books this week, but I don't think I'm going to get to this. Anyways, I also have the audiobook for Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody, so I might listen to that this week as well. People had that in the stories related to death list. Anyways, let's see what I can get to this week. This one is definitely a priority because it is the buzzword for June. So I have to get to this. Throw in some romance. Yeah, those are my plans. I will see you when I start reading. So I'm driving on a dirt road and it's very noisy and this is the worst angle ever. But I'm listening to the 7-year slip and I just wanted to make this comment before I forgot about it because it's just one of those little details that's cute or funny in the moment. It's not necessarily something you're going to remember at the end of the story. I'm just on chapter 4 and our main character, Clementine, has moved into her aunt, I thought it was her grandma's, apartment, and she's like, it's magical. And her aunt died 6 months ago and Clementine has been living in the apartment for a week now. And she fell asleep on the couch and was woken up by this guy shaking her awake and being like, I'm subletting your aunt's apartment, whatever. And she's freaking out like, how are you in here? I don't know if you know what subletting means. You can't just come here any summer you want. And he's like, I just talked to her a week ago. And she's like, this is not funny. And he's like, I'm leaving, kind of thing. It's just the first encounter that they've had together, maybe. She just keeps talking about clutching this pillow to her chest, and it's a sequenced pillow of Jeff Goldblum's face, and I think that's just hilarious. A sequence pillow of his face. I am not like a huge Jeff Goldblum fan necessarily. We watched his show on Disney where he just like went and learned about things like blue jeans and how they were made, and he just seems very kind of spaced out, a little bit all over the place, a little weird, like just a little off kind of thing, right? But as an actor, he's fine, whatever. I'm not like in love with Jeff Goldblum, but I love Jurassic Park and the books especially. And I love Ian Malcolm's character in Jurassic Park and The Lost World. Well, the book. Obviously, Jeff Goldblum is Ian Malcolm in the movies. So I just thought that was hilarious and wanted to mention that before I forgot. So I am driving on what's supposed to be a dirt road, but really is just a mud road at this point, slipping and sliding around. So I'm gonna go. So it is 8 p.m. on the first day of Lalathon, and I am not done my Canadian book yet. It takes me a long time to physically read a book. I've been listening to 3 hours of the 7-year slip, and I am enjoying it. Our main character, Clementine, has met the guy who is subletting her grandmother's apartment for the summer. His name is Iwin, and they have had a lot of really good conversations, like over dinner, getting to know each other kind of thing, and he is an aspiring chef, so he's been cooking a lot of things for them. I love getting to know these characters through conversations like that because it feels pretty authentic and genuine, and like that's how I would get to know somebody, especially like a romantic interest. In a lot of books, usually there's these big like epic dates kind of thing, touring around the city or whatever, and they're put in these different scenarios that make just like a fun date and some cute, funny scenes or whatever. And that's great, and I love it. And obviously when you're interested in somebody romantically, you do go on dates. But I feel like realistically, even when you're out on a date, you do a lot of talking to get to know each other. So I like that they're having this connection that way. And
they can't leave the apartment together because of this weird time thing that happens within the apartment, right? Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Hopefully I'll have some more time tomorrow to listen to it. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it or not. We will see. Sorry for the peeing sound in the background. That's my son filling up a bucket in the bath, I guess. Anyways, I'm trying to have a technology break. I was on for the reading sprints, and then Gavin was doing his true crime and wine, but I missed the whole true crime part of it, and was just on for like the last 10 minutes kind of thing. And I've been doing a little bit of research online for some stuff, but not as much as I would normally be online. So it's been good. I was just looking up, when is fatigue or exhaustion more than just I'm tired because I have a baby kind of thing. This guy still doesn't always sleep through the night. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He's co-sleeping, so he's in our bed a lot. And I've been on some new medication that can cause insomnia. The first like 4 days I was on it, I was going to bed at like 3 in the morning and waking up at 8:30 in the morning. So that was great. But generally I'm just having trouble sleeping, and I have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep. I am having issues with needing to pee a lot. Sleep is just non-existent for me, and I'm completely exhausted all the time. I was looking up chronic fatigue syndrome, and I don't think I'm at a point where I would be diagnosed with that. Just looking up the symptoms on the internet, I don't think I'd be diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I just need you to move a little bit. You're choking me. That's what happens when he misses his nap. I have outside circumstances that can explain my exhaustion, like 4 children. But I have always had trouble sleeping and feeling tired as well. Even as a teenager and stuff, it would be hard for me to fall asleep. So that's how my non-internet day is going. Researching if my exhaustion, my fatigue, is more than just circumstances and life and stage of life that I'm in right now. That's dirt, not a bruise. Or is it more concerning? So I do need to book an appointment with my doctor anyways. I was trying to talk to him before. I have so many concerns. I feel like I could spend 2 hours with a doctor and not cover everything. Anyways, my husband gets home. It is 8:15-ish, 8:13 p.m. He gets home at 8:40 p.m. So I'm going to try and read. I'll probably be doing what this guy's doing and just like nodding off. I'll try and be better at vlogging tomorrow what I am reading. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of updates in the car because that's just gonna be easier for me. 1, natural lighting, and 2, my toddler is absolutely wild, and I want to update as much as I can, if not while reading it, right as I finish it so that I remember, because I want to read a lot of books this week, and I have a hard time remembering things, especially when I'm jumping from like one book to another. Anyways, I just finished listening to the 7-Year Slip when I was downtown getting the groceries, and just like sat in silence on the ride home. Now I want to jump into another audiobook while I work on some earrings I'm trying to make. I'll talk about the book in a minute, the 7-Year Slip, but I'm having a hard time deciding what I want to listen to. I might hold off on this one because I have the audiobook for Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. I've been looking forward to reading that one because I know Kayla really liked that one, and then Gavin said his favorite book of the year last year, I think it was Everyone in My Family's Killed Someone. I've just heard good things about it from everybody, so I thought it would be a good audiobook to do. So I requested it a while ago, postponed the loan, and then it came back up for this week, so I was like, oh, that's perfect, I'll do it now. And then I have that very stressful thing that tells me 3 people are waiting for this book. Do you want to return it early? And I'm like, no, I don't want to return it early. I'm going to listen to it now. So I think I'm going to put this one to the side, even though I did ask my daughter to grab it for me and I really wanted to do this, but I think it would just be better to wait. And for a physical book, I need to read, and I can't find an audiobook to help me. I also need to read the Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So I think this week I'm going to pick up Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Today I'll pick that up and I will listen to some Everybody in My Family Has Killed Somebody. And I also got the audiobook in for 7 Days in June. So I'm excited about that. This is technically the 4th day of the readathon. We started on Sunday. No, 3rd day. We started Sunday, Monday, and then today is Tuesday. And this evening we are going to see Inside Out with the whole family. So I won't be able to read like much this evening. My phone is yelling at me that I don't have enough space and I gotta get inside and it's hot in the van. I'm gonna go inside and do the work I need to do while listening to everybody in the family and put away groceries and all of that good stuff. I will update later. I was supposed to talk about the 7-Year Slip. Did I talk about that? No, and I don't have space on my phone right now to do that. I will talk to you later. I'll tell you about the 7-Year Slip. It was good. I enjoyed it. Bye. Okay, I have time for the quickest update ever. I am 1 hour and 2 minutes and 5 seconds into Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. I was looking for it on Storygraph to add to my currently reading, and I put in
everybody in my family instead of everyone. And Storygraph was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Import new book. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I did not get it perfectly right. So I actually deleted it and just put family has killed someone, and it came up that way. So I love Storygraph, but sometimes, like, yeah, you need to really put in the right title. I will talk again about the 7-year slip later when I have more time, but just wanted to talk about jumping into everyone in my family. I feel like most people already know what this everyone in my family is all about, but in case you don't know or you don't remember, the author, our narrator, is telling us a story, and he even addresses us like dear reader, and he's giving us information ahead of time in some ways. There was like a prologue, and then chapter 1 he's like, this is my brother. Oh, in the prologue, not that I would remember without having the physical book to flip back to and look at, or without writing it down, but in the prologue, he talked about if you're squeamish or you don't like gore or whatever, he's like, murders happen in these chapters, and he like lists off the chapters. So I thought that was kind of funny and interesting, and it's interesting because there's not that element of surprise there, being like, oh, there's gonna be a murder in chapter 2 and 5 and 29. It's not a shock, even though I'm not gonna remember when he says chapter 29. I'm not going to remember that he told us back in the prologue that there was going to be a murder there, right? But still, it's an interesting choice to tell us these things. And he also says things like he's talking about his stepfather, and the stepfather has an old injury to his shoulder that his daughter actually is a surgeon and fixed it for him, and there's a little bit of this banter between them, and he's like, oh, I can't walk, my shoulder is injured and stuff, and she's like, good thing you had a good surgeon. And he had the surgery like 3 years ago or something, I can't remember. But our main character, what is his name, Ernest, he said that his shoulder seemed to be healing just fine based on the force of which he punches him in chapter 20, whatever. I don't remember the actual chapter names, I'm just throwing out numbers. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting way, like, you know, there's foreshadowing that something is going to happen. He's like, this is going to happen in this chapter. He's not foreshadowing, he's just straight up telling you this is happening at this time by these people. There is a little bit of mystery, of course, and we don't know all of it so far. I'm only an hour in. I just paused it for chapter 5. So obviously I don't know everything yet, but it's just an interesting narrative that way. So we are gonna go.
Am I right on time?
Yep, we gotta go.
I know where we're going.
Pick up the other kids. I have to.
And watch Inside Out too.
So I will update later when I've listened to more of this story and talk about what I want to talk about with the 7-year slip. Since this is a vlog for Lalathon, I figured I would record while getting ready and doing my makeup in honor of that guy in Kayla's hate comments control what I read week video, where the guy was really upset and was like, we're not here to see people doing their makeup. This isn't a behind the scenes thing. Kayla mentioned that being a busy person, her time to vlog and do updates is when she's doing things like preparing food or doing her makeup, right? So I needed to talk about the 7-year slip and my final thoughts on it. I heard a lot of people talking about the 7-year slip and how much they liked it and everything. I haven't heard anyone talk about any trigger warnings when it comes to this book. So I was a little bit surprised when we found out about the death of her aunt and how she died. I don't normally look up trigger warnings, so I was a little bit surprised that no one had mentioned it. So you don't know how the aunt died until closer to the very end of the book, but this isn't a book where that is like a big shock, twist, reveal kind of thing. So I don't know. Some people don't want to know anything. Anything would be considered a spoiler. I don't think learning how the aunt died is necessarily a spoiler, because as Clementine, our main character, is talking about her aunt, there's no indication that she was sick. Even suddenly, like they discovered the cancer and within 6 months or 6 weeks or something, she was gone. There's no indication that she died from a long illness or anything like that. It's pretty obvious that however she died, it was sudden and unexpected. And you know that she was found in her apartment by the neighbors called for a wellness check because they didn't see her coming or going on New Year's Day or something like that. So all you really know is that it was a sudden, unexpected death. I listened to this book completely as an audiobook, and I do not own a physical copy. So there's maybe a trigger warning like at the beginning of the book, written down that just wasn't told to us in the audiobook. If you want to know nothing, then you can skip over this next little part. I'll just put a little trigger warning thing here and you can skip this little part. It's not like a big reveal or anything. But the aunt is believed to have taken her own life. It is not completely clear if that was the intent of what happened. I won't give the details. It's not gruesome or anything like that. It's not violent. And it's not talked about a lot on page. Like I said, you don't learn about it until like 2/3 of the way into the book. You know from the beginning that she's passed, but not how. And Clementine talks about traveling with her aunt, and they only talk about or remember the good stuff. She's like, we never talk about the bad stuff or the bad moments or anything like that. You don't really hear about the aunt's struggles that she was going through. It's more Clementine's grief over the loss of her aunt. So if that's triggering for you, you might want to look up a more in-depth review of it or trigger warnings and stuff like that. If you're somebody who has had a loved one take their life, I think it could be triggering in the grief that Clementine is feeling. And it's only been 6 months since it happened. So she's had a little bit of time to process, but not a lot, especially with grief. 6 months is not very long at all. And it's been 1 week since she's been able to move into the apartment. So I just wanted to mention that in case that is a trigger for you. I guess when Clementine was like 8, her parents were moving from one house to another and just thought it would be easier for Clementine to go spend the summer with her mom's sister. And every year, Clementine would go with her aunt and they would travel the world. And then when Clementine got to an age where she had to, go to school, get a job, be a responsible adult and have a job and everything, and couldn't just go traveling for the whole summer, they had a week in August that she booked off every single year from her job. The job she's been in for 7 years now, which I think is incredible because Clementine is like 29 and she's had the same job for 7 years. I don't want to say that's unheard of nowadays, but just that she found a job that she loved so early on, a career that she was passionate about, and was able to get into the door at such a young age. But her birthday is at the beginning of like August 2nd or something, so she and her aunt would go travel for that week or whatever. I feel like it was a little unclear how the aunt had so much time and money to be able to do this. She was in a play, I believe, like Broadway, and she did a show when she was younger. Was really successful at it, but felt like that was the best. She was never going to top that, so she just stopped doing Broadway after that. She just did this like one major show. So I'm not sure, like, you wouldn't have made enough money doing that to support yourself for the next 40 years, right? So I'm not sure what she did for money, I can't remember. But yeah, I'm jealous of all their traveling that they got to do. That's what I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to talk about was it's more about their relationships with other people and themselves. Like our main character Clementine, we only get her perspective. Everything I want to talk about is more about her and what she's going through in the book versus like the actual romantic part of it. She works at a publishing house and she does PR stuff. Yeah, she's like the publicist. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's like Strauss and whatever publishing. And so there's the two people who started it and those are their last names, right? And then Rhonda is one of the two people, and they talk about how this is her job. She's 60 now, and I think she started the publishing company when she was 40. And Clementine mentions how this job, everything about this job is Rhonda's life. She lives and breathes this job, and not in a bad way. Like you see those movies or books and stuff where the people have like absolutely no life and they're workaholics and it's toxic, like how addicted they are to their jobs. It wasn't like that. It was just, this was her passion and this is what she wanted to do and she loved it. And they even talk about, because Clementine's thinking about not taking her week of vacation because she just doesn't feel like going anywhere, right, with the loss of her aunt. And Rhonda's like, you need to take this vacation. She actually, like, every year for the past 7 years that she's been at that company, she's had that first week of August booked off. And then this year, Clementine went and, like, rescinded that and was like, I'm not taking that week off. And Rhonda is like, I am rescinding your rescind of this vacation time. I'm denying you not taking time off of work. She works so hard, but she always takes, not the whole summer off, but she takes vacations. And she was talking about going to this one place and I can't remember where it was. And she's like, I'll give you the name of my masseuse and all this stuff, right? Like she has a good balance and takes care of herself mentally, but it's just her job is her life, her career is her passion. And she's not married, she doesn't have kids. this is what she has, is this job, right? And Clementine would always look at that and think like she was such a model person to look up to, such a role model, and wanted to be like her and was kind of mentored under her. Rhonda was a very approachable boss. They were friends kind of thing, or at least friendly with each other and could share things with each other and whatever. It wasn't like strictly boss employee, that's it. But Clementine just always looked up to her and was kind of striving to be like Rhonda. And throughout the book, you see that Clementine is realizing she doesn't know if she wants to make her career her entire life. That's her identity. We learned that Clementine likes to do water paints and does a lot of art. And I love the idea. I want to talk to my daughter about it. Actually, my daughter loves to doodle on things. And because of where she works at the publisher, they publish a lot of travel guides. And when her and her aunt would travel, they would get travel guides and she would draw in them. You know, you're in Paris and there's a travel guide page about the Eiffel Tower and what you can do there. When they're at the Eiffel Tower, she would see a couple that were, you know, young and in love, and she would like sketch it into the travel book. And I think that is so cool and such a neat way to make it unique and make it your own, but it's also such a great thing that you could pass down to somebody else. And I think that's just so awesome. But she learned like she had a passion. She was kind of rediscovering it. It kind of had gone to the sidelines for a bit, but she was kind of rediscovering that passion for watercolors and just learning that she wanted more in her life than just her career. So I thought that was an interesting conversation. I liked how Ashley Poston had characters that were well balanced, like Rhonda, who was passionate about her job. She was happily single, no children. They just kind of focused on the job and a little bit of her life, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm sleeping with a new guy every week and I'm so free to be with whoever I want. I'm not tied down to anyone. It wasn't about that. She wasn't talking about like, I'm so free not having children and I can go travel because I don't have kids, or regretting not having kids, like, oh, now that I'm hitting retirement age, I'm a little bit more lonely. It wasn't talking about that in a positive or negative way whatsoever. It just was her life, and she had this job that she was passionate about and loved. And Clementine's 29 and trying to figure out who she is and what she wants out of life, and is this career everything she wants, or does she want more? You know, she's just kind of going through this growth period in her life, Clementine. And Rhonda mentions, like, I didn't start this publishing company until I was 40 and now I'm 60, and I found something that I absolutely love and I've put everything into it for the past 20 years. But she was 40 when she started this, right? So it's not too late when you're 29 to find passion and whatever in your life. I also loved that Rhonda was well balanced. Like I said, not a workaholic. It wasn't like a toxic thing. She wasn't running away from anything. This wasn't her story either, so we're not learning like her internal monologue, but from an acquaintance outsider perspective, she wasn't this angry boss that you just knew something was going on in their life and they needed help, they needed therapy kind of thing. She was well balanced, she was happy, she was fulfilled in her life. And then you have, on the other hand, Clementine, who loves her job, she's passionate about her job, she's good at her job, she really loves it. But is that all she wants? Does she want to make her life her career, or does she want other things as well? And then, of course, there is the love story, the romance, the relationship between Clementine and Ewan. And he wants to become a chef. And when she meets him in the apartment, it is 7 years in the past, and he has just come to the city and wants to get a job at this really famous high-end restaurant so he can learn under the chef there. And he's like, I just want to get a dishwasher job. Once I can get in the door, then, you know, sky's the limit kind of thing. And then it's like, what is he doing in her timeline, in the present timeline, in 7 years in the future? Like, has he made it? Has he become successful? And you see what a difference 7 years can make, because she thinks about herself in the past. When she meets Ewan, what was she doing? And she was traveling with her aunt, and she had come home and was just thinking about, like, I want to do something with books. I want to work in the publishing industry somehow. And that was just like launching her career kind of thing, or just the idea of the career was starting to form. And with Ewan, he knew he wanted to be a chef, but he was just starting out with, if I can just become a dishwasher in this restaurant kind of thing. And when they spend their time together within the restaurant, they talk about things like, what is the perfect meal? And not just like the flavors and the balance, and you have to put this on the plate and that on the plate and make sure you have a good mix of this or that in the presentation. It's about sharing it with your family and your friends, and laughter and good stories, and it's the memories that it evokes. She talks about her favorite meal that she remembers being her aunt's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, just because of the memories that come with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's not that PB&J is the best thing in the world to eat, and you may disagree disagree with me, but I've never had a PB&J in my life, but I hear they're pretty good. But it's not that that's like the most fine dining culinary experience. And Clementine has traveled the world and eaten all kinds of different things, and she's got a well-rounded palate, I guess. Like, she's not just, mac, cheese, chicken, and potatoes kind of person. She'll eat anything, but the PB&J that her aunt made is so special to her because it's got that memory in it. And he talks about that, and his grandfather taught him how to cook, and the knives he uses are his grandfather's knives, and there's that passion there because of the connection and the memories it has with him and his grandfather. And then it's like, what happens in that 7 years between us being so young and passionate and a little naive about the world and a little bit or a lot optimistic, the world hasn't beaten you down yet kind of thing, versus 7 years when you've had the career and you've had setbacks and you've had good and bad experiences, right? And what do you hold on to in that? Like, Ewan's ultimate goal would be to open his own restaurant. So is he going to hold on to what his memories are of his grandfather and having that passion and having a restaurant where the atmosphere, it is a place that you can go and make memories with your family and your friends. It's cozy, it's warm, it's inviting. It isn't like so high end and stuffy that you can't even laugh or crack a joke, right? It's welcoming, and it might have more high-end food. It might be a little bit more of a pricey restaurant, but it doesn't take away from the cozy atmosphere kind of thing. It was really a story of growth for both of them. And they talk about meeting the right person at the wrong time. And I think it was really interesting about, you meet the right person in the right timing. That I'm not who I was when I was 19, when my husband and I started dating. We're not the same people now, 17 years later. And for them, for Clementine and Ewan, in the past, was it the right time for them to get together? Is the 7-year difference like present time now? Is this a better time for them to be together? If they can be together in the present. I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything, but just being the right person for each other, and everything you go through in your life makes you the person that you are, and also makes you the right person for somebody else out there, for a partner. Obviously, if that's something you're looking for in your life. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what I would rate it. I talk about this sometimes about how I don't really rate books. It's either like an obvious 5 stars or like a 2 stars. I don't rate a lot of things under 3 because if it's under a 3, I probably DNF'd it. I don't have anything in my life right now where I have to finish books. Like, even if I'm reading a book for a book club, like the Literally Dead book club, I don't have to finish it. Unless I was called on to be one of the guests. I was gonna say hosts, like a co-host. If I was gonna be a guest for the Literally Dead book club or any of the other book clubs out there, then I would push through and finish the book, even if I had to get like an audiobook and like speed through it kind of thing. Speed through it while also paying enough attention to be able to talk about it. But just as somebody joining in on the book club, there's no books that I have to finish, right? So I don't read a lot of things that I would rate below 3 stars because I don't have to read them. This one would be, I don't know if it quite gave 5 star, but probably around a 4. Now I'm going to finish doing my makeup and continue listening to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. I have talked for almost 40 minutes, so I need to shut up and get reading. I will see you with my next update. So, I am on chapter 27.5 of Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. 5 hours, 58 minutes, and 19 seconds in, and it's a 9.5 hour long book. So, like 3.5 hours left. This one doesn't tell me how much time is left. It just tells me the total time and how much I've listened to it. So, my hair looks terrible. It looked better earlier, but I slept on it. I had a nap. Desperately needed a nap. We are at the point now, I don't even know what's on the synopsis of this book to know like what's a spoiler and what's not. Obviously, like 6 hours in to a 9-hour audiobook, we're in spoiler territory now. But I don't know like what you know just going into the book if you choose to read the synopsis or not. But our main character, we're following him. He's not our main character. He's our narrator. He's telling the story. And he's very clear that he's not the main narrator he's not the main character just because he happens to be the one telling the story. But his name is Ernest, and he put his brother in jail because he witnessed his brother kill somebody. And he talked to the cops. And for whatever reasons that we're just learning about, or I just learned about, sorry, I'm trying to not break out the tripod right now. He only went to jail for 3 years. I'm not sure exactly what the sentence was, but he killed somebody. now he's getting out and they're doing like a family reunion at this resort in the mountains in Australia. And that's like where they're from. They didn't just like all fly to Australia to welcome this guy out of jail, right? But there's a lot of death in the family, obviously. A lot of stuff going on with a book called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. There is a trigger warning I do want to mention. It would kind of be a spoiler, I guess, but it's really, really tragic about the death of a child. So I won't talk about how it happens. They don't go into great detail or anything about how the child died, but you do learn how it happened. And now you can't see me at all. You either get aggressive light or nothing. It's not described in great detail, but the loss is very tragic and you do hear about it. Like, I've heard stories about it on the news of losing a child that way, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. But again, it's not the main part of this book. So far, it's not like explored in great detail or anything. It's just something you need to know about what happened and how different members of the family have ended up killing people and stuff like that. This is just like a history of what happened in the family. So just look up a trigger warning for that and know that it's not... If it is a trigger for you, obviously you might just not want to read the book at all. But if you are still curious about reading it, know that it's not like the main part of this book or anything like that. But we're into the part of the story now where we are getting all the information about their father, who died when Ernest was 6 years old, and now I don't even know how old he is now, but in his 30s, right? Yeah, he's talking about there being a death 30 years ago. So it's been 30 years-ish since his dad died. And his dad, he was led to believe, was a junkie and died just in the lifestyle kind of thing. Not directly from drugs, but just a part of the lifestyle he was living. And you're learning all this stuff, and it's kind of like learning about gangs and who hurt who here and how this person's tied into this, and this cop is tied into this gang, and all this kind of stuff that you're learning. And this is where I get completely lost. Whether it's a book, it's a TV show, it's a movie, I'm just like, what is happening? And we'll be watching something together, like my husband and I, and he will be like, this, and I'm like, who's this guy? How is he related? Why don't they like that guy? It all just goes over my head. I just don't have the mental capacity or space in my brain to understand these complex things right now. They feel complex to me. So we're learning kind of like the motivations. Somebody has died at the beginning that is unknown. We don't know who this character is. They're at a resort, like I said, and all of the guests and staff and everything are accounted for. No one is missing. No one from the neighboring town or any other resorts or hotels or anything. No one is missing. We don't know who this guy is. So that's kind of like the mystery. That's what we're trying to find out. And we're kind of getting answers to other mysteries from like 30 years ago, but we're trying to figure out like who this guy is who's died last night or the day before, whatever it was. So I'm at the airport right now to pick up my mother-in-law. My daughter went in, and I see people coming out now, so maybe she's finally here. She told us to pick her up at 6:50. The plane was supposed to land, and it is now 7:16. So that sounds about right for deboarding and deplaning. For getting off the plane, it's a very small airport. When people get off the plane, there's one spot you can pick them up from, and there's like 2 luggage carousels. My daughter ran in to go see if she could find her, so she should be coming out now. Yeah, I'm just lost to how everyone's tied into everybody else. Who are these people? And a name was mentioned, and it might be clarified here in chapter 27.5, because we've had one other chapter that was like a 0.5 chapter. It was like, to catch you up, here's what's happening. So that's cool. Yeah, I'm just a little bit lost. Anyways, that's my update for now. I don't think I'll be able to finish this audiobook tonight, but I'll finish it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, and the day after my husband is off for the last 3 days of this readathon. So I'm very excited about that. We have a lot of stuff planned, so I don't know how much reading I'll get done, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. I want to complete this book, and then I have 7 Days in June as an audiobook, and I want to read the tomorrow. I started tomorrow. I picked it up to read yesterday as a physical book, and the audiobook came in, so yay, I'm gonna need it. It was very wordy. I read like 2 pages, and yesterday I was just like exhausted, so tired. So I just couldn't, words were not making sense to me, but it was just a little too wordy for me, especially in that, like, I'm exhausted, I can't think straight frame of mind. So the audiobook is really gonna help me with that. Those are my plans. I want to read Everybody in My Family, 7 Days in June, and then tomorrow. Oh, my mother-in-law, I am here. Where do you... ... Okay, so I'll let her know that Maya's in there. Okay, well, that's my cue to wrap this up, and I will update probably tomorrow. So I am here to wrap up my Lalathon vlog. I actually already recorded this a month ago or so, right after Lalathon ended. Lalathon ended June 23rd, and I did a wrap-up video pretty shortly after that. It is now July 29th. I just finished watching the first half of my vlog and editing and getting everything all organized, and then I have the last half of me doing the wrap-up, and I just decided that this needs to be re-recorded. I have several videos I want to re-record, so awesome. I'm already way behind in everything in life, and re-recording doesn't help that, but that's okay. Here we are. So I'm going to do this as fast as I can because I want to keep the video as short as I can, and it's already about half an hour long without the ending part. I talked a lot already about the 7-Year Slip and what I liked about that book and all the different relationship dynamics, and watching our main character Clementine grow and discover who she is. She's been in the same job for 7 years now, all of her 20s basically, and in this book she's given a huge opportunity for promotion and a new direction for her career within the same company and still working with books. And her deciding if that is the direction she wants to go in, is this still the same job she wants to be in, what does she want to do? And then we meet Iwan, 7 years in the past in the apartment, and him aspiring to be a chef. And then what happens in the 7 years between when they first meet in the apartment and present time, and how much of that naive self did he hold on to, and how much has he changed in those 7 years. So I really liked all the conversations about dreams and passions and your job, your career, how much your career plays a part in your identity and how much of it you want to take over your life. So I really enjoyed those conversations, and I did enjoy the romance between Clementine and Iwan. I talked about starting tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, which was the June buzzword, and I am so upset. It is July 29th and I still have not finished the June buzzword, and I hate rolling them over to another month when it is the buzzword for that month. So I finished the buzzword for July already, which I read middle of the night. The theme for July is measurement words, so I read that because it is the Literally Dead Book Club and the Book Troop's book pick for July, as well as Summerween was at the beginning of July, and I was reading just Riley Sager books, so managed to read that one. But I have not finished the Tomorrow book yet. I am a little more than halfway through. I was listening to the audiobook. It returned. I think I took it out again, but it's since returned again. And the audiobook isn't terrible. It's not the best. The narration is fine. One of the issues I have with it is that reading it is okay, but when you're listening to it, it gets a little bit repetitive. They'll be talking and it's like, Sam said, blah, blah, blah. Sadie said, blah, blah, blah. Sam said, blah, blah, blah. Sadie said, blah, blah, blah. And the conversation just goes like that for a little bit, but it's like, he said, she said, he said, she said, and it's very repetitive when you're reading it or when it's being read to you. So it's not the best audiobook. I'm also going through it and tabbing all the things I want to tab, and it has a ridiculous amount of tabs right now because I have decided I want to highlight or underline words that I don't know and do like a little list of definitions in the back of the book, and then I just wanted to tab it up and get a more immersive experience with the book, I guess. So it's taking me a little bit longer to go through it, but I am enjoying it. A lot of people, the year it came out, it was like the favorite book of a lot of people, or at least in the top 10, maybe even top 5 for a lot of people. Do I love it that much? I don't know, but I think it's growing on me more because I'm almost doing a reread of it without having even finished it yet, because I am scanning through the pages to see what I want to tab because I was not keeping up with it when I was listening to it. I also listened to 7 Days in June. It was very spicy, just so you know. I have talked about this a lot. I skip over the very explicit sexual scenes, and I have my spice rating, and it is high on the spice rating. For me personally, if I hear the word smut, I am thinking that it's basically pornography in a book. You're just reading it for the sex. There may or may not be more of a story there, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is the chemistry. So you might think it's a well-written. I'm not saying that smut is not literature. I'm not saying that smut can't be well-written and have like beautiful prose and stuff, but it is about the sex. And I stay away from those books. That's just my personal conviction. and for me that the smut doesn't have much of a story beyond the sex. The 7 days in June, you could take out all the sex scenes and still have a story there. You would still have the romance. With a little bit of rewriting there, you would still have that tension and the chemistry there without all the explicit sex scenes. You could write it as like closed door and there would still be sustenance there for you to enjoy as the story. So I really, really liked 7 Days in June. I listened to it completely as an audiobook, and then I got it out from the library to go back because there's a few things I wanted to highlight and tab, and I know obviously you can't do that in a library book, and I just don't want to spend money right now, which I just spent $65 on books online, so let's not even talk about that. But I was just gonna like write the quotes out in a journal kind of thing, and I was just holding on to this physical book from the library, and no time in the world to do that because I actually have to like sit down and flip through to see where it is. I didn't tab it, like bookmark it in the audiobook, right? So maybe one day, maybe next summer. This summer is my summer of romance. Next summer has to be my summer of rereads or something because I need to reread so many books. But I just ended up returning it and I'm not going to go back to it right at this time. But I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the representation that was in it. Our main character, Eva, and she suffers with debilitating migraines. Like, I get a headache and it sucks. And, you know, you can't think straight if it's bad enough. It's distracting. At best, it's annoying. It's just there in the background. It's just this, like, dull pain that's just makes you a little bit more grumpy. Makes you a little less patient with people, and you're just not in a good mood because you just have this constant pain. A bad headache is, you know, you have to close your eyes, you gotta turn the lights off, you're lying down, you need to sleep, nothing's touching the pain, and you just need to hopefully sleep it off. So I could only imagine the suffering with migraines. I know they can cause like nausea and stuff, and you can be out for hours if not days. And like I said, I suffer with headaches. Like, I pretty much have headaches every single day, and sometimes it's I haven't eaten enough, sometimes I haven't had enough sleep, sometimes I've had too much coffee, sometimes I've had no coffee, stress, whatever it is. I've had headaches since I was a teenager at least. It sucks, but the way that her migraines are described, I don't know how she's a single mother taking care of her daughter. In the book, her daughter is 12 years old now, so she's older and able to be more independent, and I have a 12-year-old. They can do a lot for themselves, of course. They still need a mom around, but how did she raise this daughter as like a baby and a child and stuff, right? Like, that's incredible. I don't know. Some days I feel so bad. I'm like, I can't even get out of bed, and I don't deal with what she deals with. And she has to take like injectable painkillers and stuff. So there's the chronic pain relating to migraines side. She's a single mother. She is an author of smutty kind of books. Like, not, I just said how smutty doesn't have a storyline, but they are fantasy, erotica. What's the difference? You tell me down below if there is a difference to you between erotica and smut. Anyway, she writes fantasy series, and they involve non-human creatures as well in the plot. I'm not sure, but then the love interest, Shane, when we meet him, we get perspectives from both of them. And he is a recovering alcoholic, and he is a teacher and likes to help out troubled youth. He wants to go to the schools that are in the bad neighborhoods, that are in poor neighborhoods, that don't have the funding and resources. And he wants to help those students, and he's always very accessible to them. He's like, here's my phone number, text me, call me, I will always be there for you. I'm your person. So I had to run to the bathroom very quickly. So I'm not even 100% sure what I was talking about, but I know I was talking about Shane being there for his students. 7 Days in June is a dual timeline, and we are seeing when Eva and Shane meet for the first time in their senior year of high school, and then all these years later, like 20 years later, meeting up again unexpectedly at a writer's conference. Eva is asked to be on this panel with other Black authors, and she feels like she does not belong there because these other authors are writing what she feels like are these important literary texts and nonfiction and feminist voices and all this stuff, and she's just writing fantasy smut, basically, and that there's no like literary merit to them in this kind of setting, at least, that she's not going to have a lot to bring to the table. And on this panel of authors, she's not the most well-known in this circle of authors and readers, and she feels like her friend who's putting on this event, another author canceled or whatever, and asked Eva to be a part of it, and she feels like no one's gonna know who I am. They're not gonna ask me any questions. They're gonna think I have nothing to say. That's important, right? And then Shane comes in for the event, and he walks in through the back, and everyone recognizes him and his books. He's written 2 books or something in the series, and everyone turns around and it's like, oh, it's Shane, whatever his last name is. He's very reclusive. He never does interviews or anything like that. And you find out it's because he was an alcoholic and barely functioning. And then more recently, because he was in rehab and recovering and just doesn't do media. It's interesting because you see the contrast between, they're both Black authors. So they both have that hurdle to overcome. But her being a female and him being male, and he writes these YA novels that are about this troubled Black teen girl, and she's writing like adult fantasy smut, and he gets all the accolades and he barely gives an interview, he barely shows up anywhere, he's not in the media at all, and everyone knows him and praises him, and she tries to put herself out there and do these promotions and these events and book tours and all this stuff, and has to put in 10 times more work to get a third of the recognition that he has, right? So that's obviously a very frustrating thing, and it's not his fault that that's just the way the society works, the way the media is portraying it and everything. But of course she's like angry at him because he also, she believes, just disappeared on her and kind of promised to be with her forever type thing and wasn't. Anyways, they unexpectedly meet up at this literary event and get back together in each other's lives and kind of like, okay, what's happened over the past 20 years? Where'd you go? Where are we now? And you find out that they have been writing each other into their stories. She has a character, I think his name is Sebastian, and that's my husband's name, in her book that is one of like the main male love interests to her main female character. And she has put characteristics of Shane into this character. And the girl that he writes in his story is based off of things that he knows about Eva from the past. So they're actually writing, for the past 20 years, they've been writing each other and about each other and working these things out within their books. I love romance books, just a good old rom-com. I'm just there for the fun, the silliness, the antics, the banter, the love, the romance. But I really love and appreciate books that are deeper than that. So 7 days in June, we are focusing on things like Eva's... I want to clarify that this is not one of those people talk about like Black trauma and stories written by BIPOC authors can only about trauma and overcoming this and that. It's not that kind of story. It has a little bit of that in it and struggle and pain in it, but that's not all of it. That's not the only part of the story. It's not just Black joy. It's not just Black trauma. It's a well-rounded story, in my opinion. I can't speak on if it's well written from the perspective of a BIPOC individual, but I thought it was well balanced. But this story isn't just about the romance between Shane and Eva. It is about her chronic pain. It's about her being a single mother. It's about her being a Black author in a fantasy genre and not feeling like she fits in with the big literary authors that have something more important to say, in her opinion and in the general public's opinion. It's about Shane and his alcohol addiction and recovery. It's about Shane trying to help kids in the way he never had help as a teenager. It's about their pasts and all the pain they carry from their past and the things Shane did to himself because of what was happening in his past and how he is recovering from that. And it is about their romance, and it's about them being upset at each other about what happened, or more Eva being upset at Shane about what happened 20 years ago, that first week in June that they spent together, and all that's happened in between, and why it happened, and overcoming that pain. And can I trust you again? Can I have a relationship with you? I have a 12-year-old daughter that I have to consider, and I'm not just going to allow some guy into my life that isn't going to be there for me and isn't going to be around for the long haul. I'm not going to bring that into my life with my daughter, right? And this is what I want to say about the end of the book, because you always know. So should I talk about spoilers? I'm going to put up a spoiler warning here. You know, in a romance book that there's some kind of meet cute, and whatever the dynamic is, grumpy, sunshine, enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, second chance romance, whatever it is, there's a meeting of the two people and getting to know each other, that excitement, It's a little different with second chance romance, obviously, but the initial butterflies and excitement and all the fun stuff about romance. And then there's some kind of conflict, a misunderstanding, a miscommunication thing. There's the breakup, and then the get back together happily ever after. That's your typical romance. This story was a little different because near the end of the story, it's like they aren't ready personally to invest in a relationship at this time. They both acknowledge their brokenness and say, basically, I'm not ready to be in a relationship with you because I'm too broken to be in a healthy relationship and I don't want to mess this up. And they both acknowledge that, and I love that because so many people out there are looking for a romantic partner to solve a problem in their life. They feel empty, they feel unloved, they feel alone. Whatever it is, they're trying to fill that with that romantic partner. And you cannot put that kind of pressure on somebody to be your one and only, your everything. People will say things like, this is my better half. I have found my other half. No, a relationship can't be two half people coming together to make one whole person. You have to be two, assuming you're in a monogamous two-person relationship, you have to be two whole people coming together to make healthy relationship work. Does that mean that you are 100% perfect and you have no issues left to work out? No, that's unlikely. We should always be growing and learning and maturing and working on ourselves, bettering ourselves. But hopefully you are well and healthy enough to be in a relationship, and then when things happen, when you're together, you grow together. Even if it's a personal thing that I have to deal with, hopefully my husband will be growing and journeying along beside me in that healing process. And if there's something he has to deal with, I can walk along with him as well. But we both have to be strong people on our own first. And you're expecting this happily ever after between Shane and Eva, and they're like, I'm not ready for this yet. And I was just like, yes, that is so amazing. That is so awesome. That is so realistic. And it is showing people that it is okay to say, I'm not ready yet. Maybe you are my person. Maybe you are the one I'm meant to be with forever and ever and ever. But it's just, this is not the best timing yet. And Eva wants to so desperately go and write this book about her family history and all the stuff that has happened to her family in the past. And she just wants to share so much. And she really has this generational story on her heart that she wants to go and research and write this story, but she's contracted to finish writing like the 15th or 16th book in this fantasy series. So she's like, well, I have to write that first. And then at the end of the book, you see that she has gone, her daughter goes to her dad's place every summer. So Eva's taken the time to go south to where her family is from and meet some of her relatives and learn all the stories and, try the recipes and get all this information as research for the book that is on her heart to write. And at first there is no communication between her and Shane, and then he's like, I just need to hear your voice, and she's like, I'm not ready to hear your voice yet. They're like emailing or texting, and then she calls and leaves him a message or like a voice clip or something, and she's like, I'm not ready to hear your voice yet, but I know you need to hear my voice, so I just want to send it to you because I know this is going to help you through your journey, blah blah blah. And then eventually they start talking and deciding that they do want to be together and that they are going to work on themselves and each other as a couple together. And I just thought that was so beautiful and so wonderful. This book might be a 5-star. I need to reread it, but I really enjoyed it. And like I said, it is pretty steamy, very spicy. I knew that going into it. I was warned, but there was so much more there than just those scenes. And you will have to let me know down below if you think it is well written or not, those scenes. It seemed like they had really good chemistry and it seemed very erotic, but I can't tell you if it's like cheesy or not, but it didn't come across that way to me. So that is my review for 7 Days in June. I read that, and then I had listened to Everyone in my family has killed somebody, and I enjoyed that one. I talked about it a little bit. I like the breaking of the fourth wall kind of meta narrative style, and our narrator Ernest is telling us, like directly talking to us, like he knows he is writing a story, and he's like, I'm telling you the story of my family, and dear reader, blah blah blah. I liked that. I was a little bit confused because a lot does come at you near the end where he is finding out all about his past, his family, his dad, and what his dad was mixed up in, and how the whole family is involved in this, and how this person's connected to this person. I talked about it a little bit. That confuses me. I don't have the brain space to connect all the dots, and it would have definitely helped to have had a physical copy for that part of the book. I needed like a murder board with the timelines and the branches of like who's connected to who and how and why. But beyond that, I did enjoy it and thought it was a good book. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up here because I talk way too much and my daughter is upstairs watching my baby, and I ran up to go to the bathroom and I'm like, I'm not here. When I came out of the bathroom, my daughter is like, am I free to go now? And I'm like, no, I'm not done yet. I still have stuff to do. So I'm gonna go. Let me know if you participated in Lalathon and what books you read. If you did a 5-star audit, what are things that you find in books that you typically give 5 stars to? What is that? What are your tropes? Let me know. I do enjoy fake dating. I didn't get to any of the fake dating books I wanted to. And one of my favorites is Found Family, for sure. I haven't done a 5-star audit beyond that. If you have any good found family stories, comment those down below. And I will see you next time in another vlog. I have a few more videos I want to do that will be coming out soon. And I will see you next time. Bye!